All right, our first lesson here is note 0.1, simplifying expressions. First, fill out this flow chart. So if you want to pause now, go ahead. So first you got to ask yourself, do you have a variable? If you say no, then you do your parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, or subtract. And parentheses, you work from the inside out, and same with exponents, you go from the inside out. Multiply and divide, you go from left to right, like you're reading a text message, then you add or subtract. Okay, so you have to go in this order first. If you do have a variable, then what you're going to do is you're going to distribute and combine like terms. Now, distribute means you multiply the number in front of the parentheses into each part. This hashtag sign, before it was a hashtag, it used to mean number. I'm going to use a lot. For example here, if I have the number 2 in front of a parentheses with where it's got a variable, then I take this 2 and I multiply it to 3x, and that's how I get 6x. Then I take this 2, multiply it to the -5 here, and that's how I get the -10. And that's my final answer. I cannot do more with that. Same with this one. So in this case, I have a -5 in front of my parentheses. So -5 times x gives me this -5x. -5 times a +3 gives us this -15. And that's my final answer. I cannot do more with that. Then the other thing you'll do is if you see a variable is you'll combine like terms, which I abbreviate CLT. So combine means you add, like terms means the same variable piece. So in this first example, this x and this x exists behind the 2 and the 7. So I do 2 plus 7, and that's how I get the 9x. Okay, don't forget the variable. The variable's got to follow, okay? In this next one here, I have y and -9y. They have the same variable piece. However, I have to be kind of careful, right? First, I have to remember that this means 1y. This is one of those invisible math things. The other thing is a little love note, all right? The sign in front of a number matters. So, if you're like, how does a 1y, right? Because if I rewrite this on the side, how does a 1y plus a -9y make a -8? Well, let's just check with a calculator here. If I have a 1 plus a -9, that gives me that -8. That's how I get my -8 y. Now, some of you are like, well, can I just do 1 minus 9? Of course you can. You still get -8. You just got to be careful. Some people forget about the minus and like how it works, so either is fine. That's why I always say add. All right. Next up, we have the 3 and the -2 go together in this one. They're like terms because they do not have any variable behind it. So it'd be like 3 plus a -2, or you could do 3 minus 2. Both are fine, right? Because 3 plus a -2 gives me 1, and then 3 minus 2 also gives me 1. So they mean the same thing. It's just a matter of how your brain's going to remember to do this right. So that's what combining like terms mean. So let's look at this first example. So this first example, it has no variables. So we are going to use our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's. So first I work with the parentheses on the inside, which gives me a -2. Then I have to multiply because I'm now working on the innermost parentheses. So -2 times a -2 gives me this +4. Now I'm left with 3 plus 4 in the parentheses, which gives us 7. Okay. Anytime you do the math, you just keep bringing stuff down. Anything you didn't mess with, you just keep bringing down. So we're at the 7. So I brought everything else down. This gives me exponents left. So I have to do the exponent here. So 3 squared gives me 9. So to do 3 squared in your calculator, you do 3 squared, enter. This gives you that 9. Now I'm out of exponents, now I have to multiply or divide. So starting on the left, multiply 4 times 7, which gives me 28. Bring everything else down. Fraction bar means divide here, so I do 81 divided by 9, which gives me 9. And then I bring down that 28, so I'm left with 28 plus 9, which gives us that 37. This next one here, we do have a variable. So this is where we are going to distribute the number in front of the parentheses and then combine like terms. So my number in front of the parentheses in this case is this +2. So +2 times x gives us this orange plus 2x. +2 times a negative 3 gives us this negative 6 in red. Everything else gets brought down that I didn't mess with. And now I combine like terms. Well, 5x and 2x have the same variable piece, so I add them together. 5 plus 7 gives us the 7x. I'm sorry, 5 plus 2 gives us the 7x. Then we have negative 6 and negative 6. Those are like terms. So when I add negative 6 and negative 6 together, I get negative 12. So you can add it as negative 6 plus negative 6 in your calculator, or you can do negative 6 minus 6. It means the same thing. Just sometimes people like to see what the first one I did with the plus sign, because that's just easier for our brains to interpret, and we're less likely to make any silly sign mistakes. Next up, we have number 3. So this one we do have a variable. And in this one, so my negative 5 is in front of the parentheses. So negative 5 times x gives me a negative 5x. And then negative 5 times negative 3, include the sign, remember, gives us a positive 15. Everything else gets brought down because it wasn't inside of the parentheses. And now I check if I combine like terms. In this one, we don't combine like terms. We have an x here and we have an m here. They are not alike, so they do not get combined. The next one, number 4, the last example, there's no variable here, so we start working with our, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally's. My parentheses right now just has a 3, there's no math in it, so I move on to exponents, which gives me 2 squared. That gives me 4. Everything else gets brought down. Now I have to multiply or divide, so I'm going to start with my multiplying here, which in this case is 2 times 3 right here. 2 times 3 gives me a positive 6. There was no weird negative signs. Everything else gets brought down. Now remember, technically a fraction bar means that you divide. However, we still have all this stuff on top of the fraction bar, so we got to deal with all this stuff first, right? So first we got 11 minus 5, which gives us 6. So now we have 6 plus 6 over 4. 6 plus 6 is 12, so now we have 12 over 4. 12 over 4 is 3, because remember 12 over 4 means 12 divided by 4. And that's my final answer. If you understand what's happening between these 4 examples, go ahead, do your exit ticket, and then you can work on your homework. If you're like, ooh, I need you to go through those last 2 examples with me, Miss Rawolf, just wait until I tell you that I'm ready to start the examples. We'll do them together. Then you can do your exit ticket, and then you can start your homework, okay? Please make sure you finish this video all the way through, and just take a picture of your notes and upload them to Google Classroom. All right, everyone, that's the end of this video.